We are at an energetic crossroads. For too long, we have been stuck in survival mode, avoiding our shadows, leaning on others to bear the emotional load, and reacting from past wounds instead of choosing courage. This week brings the intense 1-2 punch of Mars and Mercury retrograde simultaneously. Within these transits lie powerful lessons in reclaiming true strength through feminine wisdom, facing shadows, embracing vulnerability, and transforming from the reactionary warrior into the courageous protector. With Venus and Pluto on the other side of the sky shaping humanity's future, this moment challenges us to dig deep and break free from ego-driven patterns and lead from love and heart. This energy right now has the power to transform you and your relationships from the inside out. So dive into the fire with me and let's crack the code of this powerful cycle. Hey kids, now I am not going to be subtle about this one. Mars retrograde is not exactly a transit that I look forward to. And this one happens to be during a Mercury retrograde during holiday season, and it takes us right through the beginning of the new year. Now, don't get me wrong, I respect the shit out of these transits and what they're trying to teach us. Because no matter what codes we crack together on this chart and in this episode, there is one overarching, unquestionable message being sent in terms of both of these transits overlapping. And that message is to slow down and look within. And at its core, I freaking love that message. But the world doesn't stop spinning for us to slow down and hibernate for a month or three. And if it did, well, then there would be no retrograde cycle because, well, planets only appear to move backwards because we're still moving forwards. Retrograde happens when a planet looks like it's moving backwards in the sky. But it's not really moving backwards, it's an illusion caused by Earth passing it or being passed in their orbits. So the planets aren't actually moving in reverse, it's just our perspective from Earth. And I think that's really key because the perspectives during these transits are going to be extremely important to getting the most out of what they're here to teach us. So let's take a look at the guidance this chart has in store for us.
So I'm not sure how in-depth I'm going to go about placements on this episode because, well, feeling it through and matching it up to the astro feels more intrinsic and more important this time around. Mars stations retrograde on December 6th at 8:04 p.m. Eastern. And this chart provides us with some good reference points to take us through the first few weeks of this energy, especially as it retrogrades back through Leo before moving into Cancer again. During this point in the transit, he's opposing Venus at the exact opposite side of the chart as she crosses Pluto and ventures into Aquarius. We also have a Mercury retrograde now conjunct the Sun in Sagittarius, which is adding another personal element to last week's T-square with Jupiter and Saturn, which still holds. There's an important trine alchemizing healing into wisdom between Chiron, Jupiter, and the Moon. And the trine between Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto continues to hold, and also forms one side of a mystic rectangle that pulls in the nodes, Neptune, and Venus into the equation as well.
So right off the bat, there is definitely a storyline subplot to this chart around masculine and feminine balance. Because not only do we have the Aries-Libra nodal axis involved, but we also have Mars directly opposed Venus conjunct Pluto in Aquarius. All is part of a kind of wonky mystic rectangle. And I don't know, it feels like we are at a heavy frustration point between masculine and feminine energies right now. It just feels like we're not seeing eye to eye. In some ways, the Mercury retrograde influence feels like we've literally moved backwards instead of forwards. A lot of the work we've been doing on nervous system regulation, healing karmic patterns, and facing our own internal trauma programming, well, I know for me and, well, a majority of the people that I've spoken with lately, it somehow still feels like it's not enough. But I don't think that's the message that these energies are trying to deliver. It's just how it feels. So let's see what the chart has to say about it.
So I mentioned earlier how I just do not look forward to Mars retrograde, for many reasons. One of which is because I'm an action-oriented person and I tend to always be working on something. And Mars in retrograde has a way of, well, slowing us down, either by choice or by force. And what I mean by that is, you can work with the energy and choose to be particular about your actions. And that's what the energy is really asking us to do. But not everyone has that luxury with every single decision. The world doesn't just stop spinning. We generally have to keep moving forward. So sometimes Mars retrograde energy has a way of derailing projects or creating roadblocks or redirections or setbacks, which, well, can be a bummer, especially since it holds well into February of the new year. But before we get bogged down in that, it's important to look at the specific placement of this retrograde. It's at 6 degrees Leo. Mars in Leo is about confidence, leadership, creativity, and heart based endeavors. It's about bravely following your bliss and leading from a place of love and passionately putting your heart first. Leo energy has a natural ability of being in the spotlight. So when we're all under Mars and Leo, we may see certain aspects of our lives become highlighted. Usually it's a clue to following your heart. But in retrograde, it can also be more of a question asking you to look at the true purpose behind your actions. Because in its unconscious expression, Mars in Leo can look a lot like blindly pushing your agenda into the spotlight for ego boosting reasons.
And honestly, I think that's why we are stopped here and moving in retrograde. Because there's still just so much egoic agenda and not enough heart based expression in masculine energy. I mean, yeah, we had our biannual Mars in Cancer direct transit to remind us of the mother energy and why feminine is at the heart of everything we do. But did we learn? Those awake and aware and doing the work sure did, and we see you. We're proud of you. But 6 is the Venus degree, and it's personal. So, guys, men, masculine energies, there's a lot more work to be done here.
Now, I'll talk about this more throughout the episode, but the way to approach this transit is definitely by looking within. Being really honest with yourself and looking at your actions and communications over the last few weeks, especially as the energy has shifted into Leo. Did the warrior come out again? Triggered defensiveness? Unwillingness to look at your own vulnerability with love, acceptance, and intention to heal? It's okay to admit these things. It's actually an important part of the lesson. That's precisely why this transit is happening at the early degrees of Leo. We are at a critical point of a much needed evolution of masculine energy, meant to teach how to transition from warrior to protector in real time, the true highest octave theme of Mars energy.
Because, woo, feminine energy is not exactly feeling safe out here right now. The feminine is happy to give intuitive direction, and in her current transit of Capricorn, she's learning how to be more assertive on behalf of peace, love, harmony, and balance. But in order for that to occur, there is a trust that has to balance between these two energies. A trust they've been working on specifically during the Aries Libra nodal axis. To fully express feminine energy to the deepest and most quantum levels of our capabilities, feminine energy needs to feel safe at its core. And in order to feel safe, we need to have protectors. That is how this energy balance is designed. Feminine energy is really tired of protecting itself and having to take action to survive and also doing the emotional labor for the masculine. We simply cannot go on like this. It's too draining. And this goes for every male, female, transgendered, queer. It does not matter what your physical parts are, because this is a war going on inside of all of us. And that is the source that is projecting out to our three-dimensional reality.
This chart essentially spells it out for us, with Mars opposed Venus at 29 Capricorn conjunct Pluto at 0 Aquarius, as a key opposition to a mystic rect entanglement with the opposing nodes on the Libra-Aries axis. Relationships are highlighted. We have 0, 3, 6, and 29 degree placements involved. So it's very personal. So personal that a large chunk of the battle lives within us. And naturally, as we go within, so without. By healing these imbalances, we take part in the evolutionary healing of our relationships with each other, and eventually the collective at large, thus evolving our entire reality. That's pretty much how quantum entanglement works. Because the nodes at the Jupiter degree here, we're looking at huge, expansive evolutionary potential as we integrate this rebalancing of energies, all guided by this difficult but integral primordial dance of Mars and Venus interlocked with Pluto.
So how do we put that all into action? So because both my Mars and Chiron are in Taurus, I am hardcore getting triggered by Uranus retrograde while at the same time in my own Uranus opposed Uranus transit. And kids, that is not for the faint of heart. I mean, everyone on the planet goes through a Uranus opposed Uranus transit in their early 40s, but Mine is happening on my Chiron and Mars placements in Taurus, which is also the exact spot that I have a janky yod on my chart. So, I'm going to be very specific here. This past week, I had to sit down with myself and have a little powwow between my masculine and feminine energies. Basically, every single trigger coming up in my life right now, no matter whether it's romantic relationships, money, family, whatever, it's all pointing me back to one single question. Does this make me feel safe? If no, why? What feels unsafe? And what are we going to do about it? And listen, I get it. There are certain things in life that won't feel safe, like trying something new. There's always an energy of tension that comes with that. But that's not what I mean. What I'm referring to here are the deep triggers of not feeling safe that are karmic, ancestral, and historical. Patterns that, I thought I had healed, and yet another layer is being revealed. Man, Chiron is thorough.
So anyway, my long-winded point here is that feminine energy cannot do her job when masculine does not do his job. And yes, it's vice versa. In a Mars retrograde, sometimes the masculine just, disappears entirely. And when it gets back into Cancer, oof. I know some of you bros, especially the ones who haven't heeded the lessons on coping mechanisms and healing techniques, y'all are going to literally melt into a puddle during this transit. And I'm not looking forward to it. So, please maybe just don't do that. Masculine energy in this particular configuration of opposition is tasked at learning from the feminine energy. And guess what? The 6-degree Leo energy here is trying to show you that it isn't a sign of weakness or an exercise of disempowerment. Part of the raw acceptance that feminine energy lives inside of you too. And by nurturing that and tapping into it and surrendering to its intuitive, abundant nature, you get to learn how to be that heart-based protector through your own power. Because it's not really about needing a woman to tell you what to do. That really is disempowering. But instead, it's a lot about how you've been acting on the outside when you deny, reject, or bury your emotions. It's about your own feminine energy first and learning how to harness and protect it, rather than shove it down and pretend it doesn't exist.
And I'm sorry to get a little bit ranty here, but Venus and the feminine are not going to help you. She is tired of doing the work. And this isn't just me complaining, this is in the chart. Venus is all the way on the opposite side of the sky, about as far away from Mars as she could possibly be. I mean, if that math isn't entirely intentional, I don't know what is.
Because at the very moment that Mars retrogrades, Venus is still at 29 Capricorn. And I know you know that energy very well because we just spent what felt like a billion years with Pluto at 29 Capricorn. So you already know what Venus is working on. She is being tested, and she's also testing you as well, on the commitment to independence, but also to maturity. That means we don't hold grudges. We don't try to control, but we remain steadfast to the ideals of beauty, harmony, and peace. And we are ready and willing to make decisions that align with those ideals and reject or boundary out anything that does not match.
And yes, that includes doing the emotional labor for men that refuse to or act incapable of doing it for themselves. Basically, that means we are not coming to save you from yourselves. Remember, this dance is simultaneously happening within your own energy and then trickling out into various three-dimensional relationships as well. As women, we often offer ourselves up as soundboards, but we're not here to be your trauma dump graveyards. I know I have no problem listening to a man tell me his deepest concerns and fears. That is not the problem. That's the connection and deep space holding that I want to continue to cultivate with men. Providing a safe space for each other in a relationship is imperative, whether you're male or female. The issue here is when the safe space becomes a dead-end outlet for your frustrations. When the feminine essentially becomes a dumping ground for unprocessed emotions. Now, for the most unhealed, unconscious, traumatized masculine energy, that can actually trigger aggression. And I think we all collectively know that we have to grow and protect each other from that. But remember, this transit is true for everyone under the sky, not just textbook abusers. If you identify with your masculine energy and you do not have coping mechanisms, you're not in therapy, you don't partake in healing modalities, and maybe you know how to talk, but you don't know how to fix, Well, the time has come for you to relearn how to do that because it's all within your power. Because your own feminine energy is flat out tired of it, let alone the actual women in your life. We are beyond exhausted from hearing about the pain without the plan of action and how you're going to address it. It is through the process of learning how to take self caring action and heal your wounds that you engage with your own inner feminine mother energies. And when we get to Mars retrograde in Cancer, you will be thrown into that process willingly or not. It will no longer be a choice. This is how you learn to protect, by choosing to protect the tenderness of your own heart and inner child.
And check it, because Venus ain't alone. This is existential. Because at that moment of retrograde, she's meeting up with Pluto on it. They're as far away from Mars as they can be, scheming on healthy detachment to let him do his thing. Because masculine is definitely going to flail here and want to grab on what's easiest for them to reach, which for the last several hundred years has essentially been leaning on the feminine to do the work. But not only is she being tested at 29 degrees on holding her commitments to herself and to her virtues, but now she has Pluto with her, and Pluto is not fucking around. They're building the future forward vision for humanity together. And they're looking over at Mars like, hey, are you going to get your shit together or what? Because we got some big plans. And we need you. We want you. But you have to show up and stop spinning out. Stop getting lost within yourself.
Because the only way out is through the parts of yourself that you've been unwilling to face. See, when a male or female looks deepest within themselves, we often find the polarity of the other is either exactly what we're trying to avoid, or if we're in a trauma response, maybe exactly what we're overexpressing to compensate for lack of feeling safe in our own bodies. And although we are done with that trauma loop, masculine energy still needs to prove it. If we want to get the best of the lessons of the Aries Libra nodal axis in check and truly integrate and learn how to be the courageous protectors of the beauty of life, we need men who are willing to take action on behalf of the fucking beauty of life, on behalf of preservation of our sacred union together, not just on what helps us survive, not just based on egoic endeavors. Because as much as people blame and shame and villainize the ego, it's simply a survival tool that helps us navigate the human experience by creating a sense of identity. It organizes our experiences with the singular goal of protecting our physical bodies from perceived threats and motivates us to meet basic needs like safety, connection, and achievement. While essential for our survival, a heavy focus on the ego can limit our growth. So it's on us right now in this critical moment of evolution for masculine energy to choose expansion of heart-based leadership and protection over egoic survival mode. Because we don't thrive when we're forced to focus on our survival. And that's why cultivating internal mechanisms of safety is so important. From within, so without.
And listen, we all need to join together in these endeavors. It's hard work, and sometimes a chart reading and an outside reflection can help us see our blind spots and where we keep running in circles and banging into walls. We certainly were never meant to do this alone. We all bring magic and gifts to each other through our experiences and wisdom. It is my honor to assist and be that mirror through a chart reading, session pack, or deeper analysis. So if you find yourself bent out of shape in this energy, and we all are in one way or another, please utilize me as a modality or technique to help you find your center and regulate this energy. Subscribe, comment, DM, follow, send me an email, a voicemail, a carrier pigeon, whatever it takes. Let's get in touch so we can work on it together and you can give yourself or a loved one the gift of a safe space, direction, and evolutionary purpose. Because we all deserve that. And speaking of identity and communication, we have the Sun at 15 conjunct with Mercury retrograde at 13 in Sagittarius. Although a bit out of orb for a grand trine formation, this conjunction trines Mars and Chiron individually, so it still offers a wealth of support for the missions at hand. First, looking at Sun at 15 in the Jupiter-ruled sign of Sagittarius, we have the energy of our personal identity exploring the sign of alchemizing wisdom, philosophy, beliefs, and adventure. Normally, without all these other transits, this is a pretty fun placement. At 15 degrees, it's like a relationship adventure. And I'd like to think that the fact that it's trining Mars retrograde is a bit of a softer reminder for the masculine to look to his heart for answers.
Because as much as I conceptually talk about masculine feminine balance, a big portion of what drives our hearts into external romantic relationships is having a partner we trust to go through the adventures of life with. I think that's a really sweet nudge that Mars is receiving as he goes to the depths of this journey and exploration of his own internal balance of leadership and empowerment. It's like, bro, remember your heart. As complicated as we make certain things, who doesn't love having fun with a partner? It lights up our hearts and provides a really rather simplified intrinsic connection to each other. It can give our lives more meaning and greater purpose. I think this sun placement really wants to remind us that the healing and wisdom that we will gain from facing ourselves will inevitably lead to a stronger sense of self, and that'll ultimately benefit us in relationships of all types as well.
But it's conjunct Mercury retrograde at 13 degrees Sagittarius. Now, that's an interesting placement because we have the planet of communication and understanding engaging in inner work around beliefs and philosophies. It's at the Iranian degree, so there's transformation on offer, and the potential for this inner work to unearth something rather unexpected. But that's not something to fear. There's magic in there. As someone who reads a lot of charts and has extensive experience navigating ancestral patterns, past lives, and multidimensional aspects, I feel like there is something here that has the potential to transform your identity. Perhaps it's coming to terms with the root of a toxic pattern. Perhaps it's a conversation with a parent that leads to an unearthed memory or story. Hey, maybe you see a connection from a past life in a dream that answers a question about a fear you've had since before you can even remember. As much as inner work can insinuate difficulty and pain, there's so much adventure and wisdom available within this work as well.
And now is the perfect time to explore that. Because this is a window of opportunity here to really allow Mercury retrograde to be our teacher. I'm noticing a lot of people being shown repetitive patterns that literally mirror the past two Mercury retrograde cycles of this year. And I think the reason for that is highly particular. The last Mercury retrograde we experienced in August was in Leo, the same sign that Mars is now retrograde in. And the one before that, back in April, was in Aries, which is the sign Chiron is currently retrograde in. So if you're finding yourself in repeating patterns, please don't write it off as a coincidence. The universe and Mercury are not trying to torture you here, I promise. Rather, they're trying to show you what needs your attention, where you have the power to end a significant life pattern by making different choices. So please pay attention.
Because in addition to the Sun conjuncting Mercury retrograde and trining Mars retrograde, it's also separately trining Chiron retrograde at 19 degrees Aries. That was a mouthful. Chiron in Aries is about wounding around empowerment. It's about being silenced, karmic and ancestral lessons around misuses of power. It's where bravery has historically gotten oneself killed. I think when Chiron retrogrades, which isn't exactly a rare occurrence as it happens about half of the year every year, it's a time where connecting to our internal world offers us a glimpse at the quantum timeline of events that caused our wounding in the first place.
Now, I've spoken about this a while back in a past episode, so I'll be quick about it here, but how many of you were seemingly born with fears and traumas that you can't even name? Fear of heights, fear of bugs, I don't know, weird fears that have no reference experience that you can actually remember. Mine was a fear of fire. It took a lot of digging and work for me to relate that back to a very specific lifetime in my karmic lineage, where I lost my partner in a devastating house fire. I'm bringing this up as an example to showcase the kind of information that's available to you if you're willing to look your fears in the eye and ask why. While we can do that every day, some cycles of life are built for that kind of introspection, and baby, we are in it right now. This is not a moment of action. Rather, it's a time to gain knowledge and alchemize it into wisdom from the depth of our inner world. Then our actions can be different rather than from patternized trauma and survival. There is energy here just waiting to transform your identity and who you believe yourself to be, and to give you greater awareness and the power of choice not to repeat the pattern again.
And while I was planning on wrapping up this episode here, I should note that in support of Chiron, aside from the trine to Sun and Mercury, there's a minor grand trine with Jupiter retrograde in Gemini and the Moon in Aquarius. Jupiter retrograde at 16 Gemini feels to me like a major part of the support portal that opens us up to information hidden within the spiral pattern of Chiron's wounding. There's the Neptune degree underneath that placement, so its goal is internal expansion of information in order to transform your philosophies on life and broaden your viewpoint on what's possible. It's transcendent healing from the inside out. And what better way to do that than to access some ancestral karmic past life trauma? But it's not only that, it can definitely be childhood trauma or other causes as well. The point is that sextile provides some added support to opening up the field of consciousness for all of us. That basically means we can see more if we're willing to look. And the trine to moon helps show us how. The moon at 25 Aquarius is using our emotional intuition as vision. The moon in Aquarius is an interesting placement because the moon is inherently emotional and feelings oriented. But in Aquarius, we have access to healthy amounts of non-attachment to those emotions. So we can kind of look at them without getting drawn into them, which is kind of the perfect recipe for using the power of our feelings or triggers to explore the why behind our patterns, fears, and unconscious actions.
So all of this happening in the sky simultaneously, as a key mystic rectangle is trying to show us something about masculine-feminine wounding and how we've hurt each other lifetime after lifetime. But we're not being asked to relive the pain, nor are we looking at it with shame. Jupiter and Gemini energy is about curiosity. We're being asked to look at it and extract and alchemize the wisdom from it, specifically so that we do not repeat the past. I'm not trying to place blame on the masculine here, but it's highlighted especially for masculine energy. We do not want to repeat this cycle again, and from an evolutionary standpoint, the universe isn't really going to let us.
Which brings us right back to the meat of the chart. A mystic rectangle is a unique aspect configuration that's challenging, but when we utilize the support to balance the oppositions, there's great opportunity for integration of energy that can transform our patterning. Mars retrograde opposed Venus conjunct Pluto feels a bit like we're sending the masculine off on a journey of self-discovery, sort of like the Native American tradition of vision quest, except instead of fasting and spending time in nature, although to be honest, that really wouldn't hurt either at this point, the masculine is on a journey of inner discovery. His mission is supported by the energy of South Node Libra, letting go of patterns and tendencies that are out of alignment with our balance, flow, justice, and peace. And opposing that, but also in support of Mars, is the North Node Aries, another aspect that guides us towards expansion of bravery and empowerment. But it's also conjunct Neptune, still retrograde at 27 Pisces. So there, spirituality comes from within. It requires us to take inner action to access healing and transcendence. While Venus conjunct Pluto gets to have some healthy detachment. Her own sextile to the South Node Libra helps her step back and not do the work for him because ultimately Venus and Libra energy are receiving. They were never meant to be the action takers. Rather, they provide a depth of quantum guidance that allows the masculine to go out and build a world aligned with peace. Meanwhile, this frees her up to be in cahoots with Pluto at 0 Aquarius, essentially planning our freedom-loving, future-forward vision for humanity. Can I get a hell yeah?
So wouldn't it be nice if we could all just take a few months off and really focus on this mission and settle all of this energy for the betterment of our future of humanity? A girl can dream, I guess. But maybe it's challenging because the future forward vision of humanity and how we live does eventually become more aligned to these transits and our natural instinctive patterns of action versus rest. Because even though the world isn't stopping for us, we can freeze time for ourselves by digging into this energy and taking a good hard look at ourselves from the inside out. I do this in meditation, but if you have a hard time just sitting down and focusing in on your emotions and your inner world, please come and get a session. And if you don't want to do that either, you can at least start by looking at your outside relationships, especially when you are triggered. Ask why. Take a deep breath and allow yourself to see and be shown the patterns that are holding you back. The world is showing them to you in one way or another. You can be the active, willing participant, excited to battle the things that hold you back with the purpose of expansion of the peace that you will find on the other side of it. Or, well, you can let the universe and these transits drag you in, kicking and screaming and clinging to the patterns that are no longer keeping you safe. The choice really is yours. But I promise it's more self-loving to go in willingly with curiosity. So I hope this episode has helped provide some ideas and tactics for how to work with this energy. Being here for the evolution of humanity and the reconnection of the masculine and feminine energy balance is not for the faint of heart. Remember, you are brave and you are enough just for being here and participating right now. Yes, even the masculine energies. I really mean it in this energy more so than usual. What you resist persists, so it will benefit you greatly if you let it flow, 'cause it won't stop. Thank you so much for joining me today and watching this episode and trusting my guidance. As part of my mission to follow my bliss and concurrently be of service to others, I'd love to help you crack the code of your own astrological chart and uncover the hidden guidance within it.
Whether you're interested in live readings, written analysis, or even personalized videos like this one tailored to your specific chart, I'm here to support your journey. Stay connected with me by subscribing here on YouTube and give me a follow on Instagram for regular cosmic insights and content. Plus, check out my website for some fun, customizable astro merchant gifts to rep your unique astrological code. And remember, let it flow, because it won't stop.